even though I was born in the U.S., um, you know, 21 years of my life, the only time I've ever been called an American has been when I'm abroad, especially in Mexico. So it's that situation where in the U.S., you're Mexican, and then in Mexico, you're American.
People will ask where I'm from, or where I'm actually from, or they actually met where my parents are from.
Despite being born in the U.S., my lineage traces back to something further than this country, and vice versa. I can be solely Dominican, which I'm referred to as, in 90% of my day when speaking culturally, but that doesn't also take into consideration my American side. I was speaking to a white American, and I would refer to as a Dominican. I don't necessarily take it to heart. I don't think it's a bias. It's a way to identify me as other. However,
You try to find your place within, fully acknowledging that you're not one or you're not the other, but you're somewhere in the middle. And sometimes the middle can get mushy.
I think there's a little kind of tension between Vietnamese kids because a lot of the times parents will compare them, and so I always felt like, because my parents would throw out, you're not being Vietnamese enough, or you've been Americanized, because I think another kid speaks Vietnamese a lot better than I do. And I felt like it was unfair, and I didn't feel like I was good enough.
I'm around Dominicans themselves. They're first generations like me or second generation Dominicans, but they don't travel to the island as much as I do, or stay in touch with the cultural aspects as I do. So I'll speak slang, Dominican slang, and they won't understand it, and they'll say, "Oh, you too Dominican," or you listen to music, "Oh, you too Dominican," or they call us Hicks. They call us Dominican Hicks in our community, intramurally. So there's like the proper way to be Dominican, and then there's a Dominican hick that's just too loud, flamboyant, or whatever, it's too, whatever. Not Dominican enough. The older generations in the Dominican Republic sometimes hear my Spanish, and either they're like, oh, well, he couldn't say that properly, or he doesn't know how to say that, so he's not Dominican enough.
The biggest microaggression that I've felt growing up is the model minority. I think that's largely in part because my mom pushed me academically so much compared to others. But no, I think it's the same for others as well. You're either not living up to model minority or you are the model minority. And I was always deferred to as, smart because I'm Asian. People would jokingly ask me to do their homework, or they would just try to copy homework or just something like that for me. And I think that really negates how much work I've put into, my academics.
It's harder for me, I guess, to assert myself as an equal or as an American. Again, despite me being born here, it just takes that little extra. I mean, I don't know why, but that's how it works, and I'm not going to deny that that's a thing, that's a force working against me. So in a lot of senses, you have two masks. That's part of living on the hyphen. And if we're leaning on the American side of the hyphen, means that you'll be able to get better opportunities, get ahead, then by all means do it, because you're also doing it for your community.
I think that there's always an added pressure to being the child of an immigrant, because our success is mirrored into their struggle. There's always parallel to it, or it has a relationship to it, and it also gets at its most gratuitous form. It gets put into a system of data, right? So we're put into a numbers game, and they'll start dissecting whether or not the Dominican community is good for American society or not, based on whether or not I perform personally.
There's no reason for me to hyphen, I guess. The fact that, I really didn't have a choice. I was really forced into that middle ground, but now I accept that middle ground, right? I'm proud of it. But the fact that you have, Asian American, African American, Mexican American, or Latino American, it just has historical underpinnings that leads you to think that those hyphens are there for a reason, and the only reason that they're there for is because they're not white.